What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here, alongside Josh Davis. Happy Wednesday of the Eagles bye week. It's the Wednesday Link Live. Josh, good evening. We have bad injury news to start with. Fantastic.
Yeah, good evening to you as well. But yeah, not the best of news, obviously, with Nakobe Dean. It's one of those weeks that we talked about before. It's like, you don't have a whole lot going on throughout the bye. It's a
Right.
weird feeling, an odd feeling. We've experienced the bye before, but you get so amped up throughout the season, and then all of a sudden you're kind of coming crashing back down to earth. So it takes a little bit to get used to. But you're right. Unfortunate news, as Mike Garafolo had reported, that Nakobe Dean, the Lisfranc injury, and sounds like he's going to be out for probably at least a 4-week stretch because they'll use
Yeah.
the IR. Now he's going to get a second opinion, was the last that I saw. Um, it's never good, right? It's never good to lose a player to injury. We don't wish that. Prayers for Nakobe. He can't catch a break. It is the opposite foot. I saw some people, I think,
Yes,
saying,
it
"Oh my
is.
gosh, it's the same injury." It's not the same injury. It's the opposite foot.
Right.
But it is a foot injury, so there's something there. It's a little strange, a little odd for a guy who didn't have a ton of injuries at Georgia. But curious to get your thoughts on main impact. Is this going to
Yeah.
be significant? Are there stop gaps? Just kind of in general there.
I was wondering when I first saw this happen, well, what do the advanced stats say, right? Has he been one of the best linebackers of the team? Has he been the worst? And according to people on Twitter, looking at the advanced stats, he's been the worst linebacker, been the worst coverage linebacker out of the three of Morrow, obviously, Zach Cunningham, and then Dean. And he's not been that great overall in run stopping either. And so, while it's a bummer from Nakobe Dean's standpoint, because I think all of us thought that he was going to be, finally that next great Eagles linebacker that we have waited forever for. I mean, it's been a long time since the Eagles had a great linebacker. And TJ Edwards kind of counts, but you didn't keep TJ Edwards through another contract, right? You haven't had that guy, that Jeremiah Trotter that's been there for a very, very long time, and I think we all thought Dean was going to be that. And now it looks like he has serious durability issues. And you see this in the NFL all the time where somebody has all the talent in the world. He's going to be a great prospect. He flashes at times. He flashed a little bit last year. He played well early on this season. And now two, IR injuries, 4 weeks and 4 more weeks. It feels like you're going to have to roll with Dean and Morrow going forward. The worst part about it, though, is depth. Because what happens if you lose Morrow or Cunningham? You're getting Ben Van Sumeren, who they activated to the active roster, at least on his practice squad activation this past Sunday, but he's nowhere near close, an undrafted free agent out of Michigan State, to being, a starting linebacker in the National Football League. And so while Philadelphia seemingly had gotten over that cornerback bug, the secondary bug with Roby coming back now and Sidney Brown being back, it feels like they're going to have a new injury bug, and that's linebacker, especially with Dean being out for an extended period of time. But I think from a X's and O's standpoint, Josh, you'd agree, this isn't that big of a loss, right?
I don't think so. No, I agree with you. It's to the point of you have a Zach Cunningham who's been playing lights out. So,
Really good.
you got that. You've got Nicholas Morrow. And I would agree with you. I'd agree with most people who have been saying that Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham have outplayed Dean. Now, you mentioned it as well. Like, it's a great point. He was banged up or he was injured, taking a while to get back. Is it a little bit of slow, rust or something, whatever the case may be? Who knows? Because we really only got to see him for one game, if that. So, but before the first injury, and then you're kind of coming back. So, X and O's wise, I don't think it has any immediate impact, but like you alluded to, depth position concern, like if you have to get pressed into a Ben Van Sumeren playing or Christian
Right.
Ellis, Christian Ellis was okay. I thought that there was a chance as he was trending towards that direction. I was like, well, hey, you know what? At this point in the offseason, I was saying I think Christian Ellis could be the starter. Now, obviously, I was wrong, and thankfully, because there was a lot better play from the guys that we've
Right.
already mentioned. But I think we've seen a lot from, or maybe a little, however you want to look at it, but not as much from Christian Ellis either, who's missed a ton of tackles. Like, he can get in the right spot, but when it
Right.
comes to bringing the ball carrier down, we've seen him miss a ton of tackles there. So again, I don't think it's a major deal in terms of the X's and O's for the immediate future. But if this is a 4-week or longer lingering injury, then all of a sudden you're saying, well, we have our starters. We trust Morrow and we trust Cunningham, but what do you do for the second, or what do you do for a guy in case one of them gets injured? That's where I'd have a little bit of concern, but nothing major at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, well, and if you think way down the line, I know we're obviously in Super Bowl mode, we're in season mode right now. but you're going to blink and a couple of months is going to go by, and win, lose, or draw in the Super Bowl, the Eagles will have another draft, another offseason, and linebacker is probably going to be towards the top of what's going to be a pretty long list. I don't want to get crazy here, but a lot of people would argue they might need to take an outside cornerback to be the heir apparent to Darius Slay and James Bradberry. That's regardless of how you feel about Eli Ricks, You probably need an offensive lineman to be the heir apparent to maybe Jason Kelsey or just maybe Lane Johnson. Like, you need to get somebody on the offensive line. Even if you move Cam Jurgens over and Steen becomes the right guard, you needed some sort of, future plan at the Lane Johnson right tackle position, and you might need a running back. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting offseason for Howie Roseman and for a guy who doesn't care about linebackers. We've said this time and time again. Spending a third-round draft pick on Nakobe Dean was like a big deal for Howie Roseman, and it was more of a big deal because he should have been a first-round linebacker, and he happened to fall till round 3, and so I guess Howie at that point said, I can't not take a linebacker, but it's going to be a very interesting offseason for Philadelphia, especially with what seems to be a big need at linebacker and a need that they don't normally like to get because they'll just take the best pass rusher available maybe at 31 or 32.
Yes, yep, definitely going to be a big offseason. I know, like we've talked about a couple times, it's blown up on social media and everyone says it. I'm with it in terms of the whole idea of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Like, that would be cool. That would be awesome. Who wouldn't love to see that on the back of an Eagles jersey again? But yes, I agree. Honestly, I think Ryan here with the super chat of 10, he says, I could think of worse players to lose than Nakobe Dean. He's certainly not played to expectations. Right. I like him. I think he has a future, but it's certainly not going to be this year. I think that's right where we're in line with what we've been suggesting. So again, we're not writing him off. We're not saying, hey, this is never a chance for Nakobe, but so far how he's played, the guys we've mentioned, kind of the case by case, as you're looking into the future, it's not really this year. So there's other players. I mean, like Ryan says there, you could name a lot of other players that would be more drastic to lose on the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball than Nakobe Dean. Not that we're saying, injury is not a bad thing or is a bad thing or anything like that. So I will be able to fill the gap there, take over a little depth, hopefully. Honestly, I mean, I think we all see this. The pass defense, that is the constant, the common denominator, the continued assault on this team. I mean, there's a reason teams pass more against the Eagles than any other squad, but like, that is where you have more of the issues and concerns. Let's be honest, losing a linebacker like that, not great. But if it was something in the secondary, which we already are kind of thin because of the performance or the coaching and scheme, that's also there. But yeah, nothing like that, I would say.
Can we talk about the secondary for a second? I think this is my biggest takeaway from the Cowboy game if I'm looking at it negatively, right? And it's an obvious one because we all saw CeeDee Lamb carve us up. But like, when you look at the Cowboy game as a whole, and there's a comment here from, who was it? Kyle, who says the Coat Boy fans having a rough time accepting their loss. It's true. But if you're the Coat Boys and you're watching that film, you basically shut down the Eagle offense in the fourth quarter. Now, play calling, I think, was a big part of that. I don't know why you're running 3 straight times on, first, second, and third down on the final possession when you needed a first down. We talked about that during the game. But you watch the Eagles secondary get shredded. And there were a couple of times where if you take away the Josh Sweat sack on that final drive, Dak has I forget which receiver it was, wide open because they ran Zach Cunningham out on this player. Like, I really am starting to worry that the secondary is going to burn us in one of these big games. And the Eagles have 4 straight big games. We're not going to win all 4. I get that. But you mentioned it in the postgame of our show on Sunday. You went from Eric Bieniemy carving you up with Sam Howell to now Andy Reid getting an extra week off and Patrick Mahomes. I know they don't have elite receivers, but it feels like the secondary is going to get worked. And can I just say, Kevin Byard, man, 2 weeks. I know you're trying to learn a system, but at what point does your all-pro abilities not overtake and kind of start to show up a little bit here? He's been irrelevant. He truly has been irrelevant. Yeah. And I'm waiting for him to pop up because I love the trade, but it's starting to give me Robert Quinn vibes. And I know it's too early to say that because Quinn was awful, but Byard has not shown up yet, man. He's not been there.
Yeah, he does need to show up. I'll agree with you there. It is early. I know you said that. I know you kind of disclaimer on that side, but I hear you. Even from the grades, you want to take a look at the Cowboys grades coming out. I mean, honestly, the only players you could say played well in that game, and everyone had mistakes. We're not saying, no one was flawless, but the only players I would say secondary was Slay. Slay played pretty good. And Reed Blankenship. Reed Blankenship played pretty good. Now, again, they all gave up big plays, but if you look at the grading and kind of look at the film and the reports, everything there, those were the 2 that are more the constants. But to your point, I mean, like, Byard gave up a really, I think it was like, what, a 35, 40-yard game to Ferguson. There was another one over the middle to CeeDee Lamb. So it's kind of constant. I'm with you, though. There's like at what point is it on the coaching staff and at what point is it on the players? The fact that you have some players that are making plays like a Reed Blankenship and a Darius Slay, kind of like, it's got to be a combo, because otherwise, if every player was doing trash or playing terrible, then, you'd say, well, of course, it's the coaching staff because no one can play a good game. But the fact you have a couple, I don't know. But I'm with you, and I agree that there's concern. There's a reason that the Eagles are underdogs for the first game in forever. I forgot what the stat was and how long exactly, but they're underdogs to Kansas City, 2.5 points. Not a lot, but it's still an underdog. I probably would have expected that going in, but certainly we talk about, Andy Reid, bye week, extra time to prepare. And we haven't beat Big Red. Like, since he's gone to Kansas City, haven't beat him. So it's going to be a massive game. I think it's a prove it game for a lot of players. I hope that there's not extra hype, although I'm good with like motivation to say, hey, we lost the Super Bowl, so let's go take care of business in Kansas City. But this will be the ultimate test, because like you just said there, I mean, with a Sam Howell, with guys that have kind of torched you, so to speak, that you don't expect to have those big type of games or the names that they have. Patrick Mahomes is different, as we all know. So, I mean, there's a little fear going into this to say, you have some time to figure it out, but also that gives Andy Reid time to figure it out and determine, okay, how do we attack this defense that is very susceptible to the passing game? So I'm going to be interested to see that. I'm holding out. I'm a little bit more confident, or I don't know, optimistic, I guess you should say, for Kevin Byard. But I agree with you. I mean, we just haven't seen so much so far. So can Desai make the adjustments? Right. He's been good in second half adjustments. Can he make adjustments over the bye week? That's the hope. That's the goal.
Yeah. I mean, I see Darlene saying give Byard a chance. It's been 2 games. Robert echoes the same thing. He will adapt. He'll be good for us. And I know, and that's the disclaimer that I threw in there. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, for as much as we kind of didn't like him at the end with all the antics and free agency and stuff like that, he had an it factor. He had a kind of swagger around him where it was like he was making plays and getting turnovers, and he really felt like someone you didn't want to face on a game-in, game-out basis. I just haven't felt that from Byard yet, and that was my expectation. Maybe it was unfair. Maybe he's not quite the all-pro that he was, and again, he has time. I think the bye week's going to do wonders. I hope he proves me wrong, but I am waiting for that kind of, explosiveness to come out of a secondary that has felt a little bit less explosive. I mean, Slay is not the same player that he was, as much as we love him, and you mentioned it. He was probably your best cover corner on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys, but he's not Slay from 2 years ago. And Bradberry's hard to read right now because it feels like he's getting beat. Feels like he also makes good plays, but he also has penalties. Like I just don't know where I'm at on Bradberry right now.
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I don't want to knock him too much, but
I don't either.
He's been bad. Like, there's not another way to say that. I agree with you. He's made a couple plays. Yeah. But I mean, Ryan here with another super chat, the 10, he says the secondary in general has been abysmal, especially crossing routes, and James Dingleberry has been especially bad the past couple weeks. Dude acts like he can't cover himself with a blanket. I mean, so there's another nickname too. We want to start using that for Burntberry, Dingleberry, whatever. But I mean, honestly, more often than not, you see Bradberry out there. When you throw it, I'm going, oh gosh, like there's not the same level of confidence. And I hear you about Slay. I mean, I don't think that he's the same that he was 2 years ago. But there's not as much concern. Like whenever it's Slay there, I'm like, okay, like it could be okay. Like he could be decent. But so far, every time that it's like, oh, that's Bradberry's side, I'm bracing for you're going to give up a play or you're going to get flagged for a penalty or something's going to happen because he hasn't proved it. Now, we talked about Nakobe Dean as we opened this with the injuries. I mean, Bradberry was out for a little bit. He had the injury with the ankle. So it's not a massive deal. And then all of a sudden decides trying to play him at slot and try to learn that position. Does that mess with his psyche? Does that mess with his mental ability or prepping or just being moved all over the place? Maybe, but I still think that there's got to be some level of consistency, and we just haven't seen it so far. So the hope is that you figure it out and you have a solution that he can start playing a little bit better because the passer rating is, what is it? I think it's like 120 when he's targeted. It's like a 120 passer rating. It's insane. I mean, you're good luck. Just, hey, there's James Bradberry. Let's throw it at him. So I don't know. A quick shout out too. I was going to say, everybody watching, appreciate all the support. Kid Fresh says, love both your channels. Make sure to hit the like button. If you haven't already, it helps us out a lot. We do appreciate it. But yeah, I appreciate the love as well. So I don't know. We mentioned the secondary again, just the kind of the concerns there. But what about Eli Ricks? I'm curious because we've been high on him for a little while.
Yeah, we have.
CeeDee Lamb is a tough cover. We'll give him that. But he also had other receivers like a Cooper Kupp and a Tyreek Hill. I mean, he had already been baptized, so to speak, or an experience of here's the NFL.
Yeah.
But CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he torched him every single time he was lined up with Ricks. Are you concerned, or is it just a kind of a one-off?
I think Ricks is a perfect example of what a good undrafted free agent looks like. And you have to put those two words together. Undrafted free agent, right? I mean, those are more than two words, but those two, UDFA, right? He's undrafted. Means he's not a fifth round draft pick, a third round draft pick, a second round draft pick. He has issues. There are reasons why he fell out of the draft. And sure, there are all sorts of, historical instances of this UDFA turned out to be a star. It's very rare though. Normally, a good UDFA turns into TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards is not a star linebacker. He's a good linebacker. He's a very good linebacker. And I see that with Ricks right now. He's undrafted, he's a rookie, and he is struggling at times. At other times, though, his talent flashes. And that's why Philadelphia might have gotten to steal the draft or to steal the undrafted free agent class in picking him up. I think time is only going to help him out. It's only going to make him better. I do see him as one of the heir apparents at cornerback on the outside. I mean, heck, you have Keely Ringo, who was drafted, in the 5th round? The dude can't see the field. He plays special teams. That's it.
Yeah,
Ricks is undrafted, didn't play slot much in college, and yet is getting one-on-one matches with Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb. So clearly he is that much better than Keely Ringo, right? I know Ringo, the slot didn't make a lot of sense, but still, Ricks finds a way to get on the field. Ringo is not, showcasing why Ricks is a little bit better. But he is struggling, and I do think that Desai maybe went into the Dallas Cowboy game after watching Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp kind of get worked against Eli Ricks. I mean, the numbers were pretty darn good, and he went, you know what, I could throw this guy on CeeDee Lamb. I think we'll be okay. And then you saw by halftime, Slay started moving across the formation, and by the end of the game, Slay was saying, just put me on 88, just let me guard him. And so I think Desai has got to be a little bit more careful with, when he uses Ricks, when he decides to put Ricks in situations where he could be exposed and put one-on-one. And thankfully, the Chiefs this coming week, or 2 weeks from now, I should say, they don't have an elite receiver, and Ricks will not be guarding Jason Kelsey. That's Byard's job more than likely. But you're eventually going to play Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb again, and have to play Stephon Diggs. Yep. And so I know teams are going to try and attack Ricks. Ricks has got to be ready. You need to play him. Who else are you going to play there? I mean, Roby can come back, sure, but Ricks is going to get his run. Desai just needs to be a little bit more careful. And I think that's probably the overall take I have with Desai. I'm curious your thoughts on him as a whole. He's done some really good stuff. He's had some really good moments. The third quarter was fantastic against Dallas. The fourth quarter against the Dolphins was really, really good. He has his little moments, and overall, he's way better than Sean Desai. Way better than Jonathan Gannon. No one's arguing that. But I do think he gets a little bit, is it complacent on some of these drives? Is it stubborn? I'm curious, where are you at on Desai right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I like Desai and I want him to succeed. I mean, we all want him to succeed because he's the defensive coordinator. But I mean, ever since his opening press conference, he said all the right things.
Yes.
And he's continued to say all the right things. But it's the constant each and every week we start the game, and you just about every single game. There's been a couple. The Bucs game was fantastic and flawless, basically. I mean, just held Baker and the Bucs defense in check. And what was the other one? There was one more. I'm drawing a blank.
Vikings.
Almost. I guess the Vikings one was pretty good. Allowed some scores kind of late, and then the Dolphins. You give the Dolphins pretty good.
Dolphins was pretty good. Yeah.
But it feels like for the majority of the time, even in some of those games where the beginning of the game starts out and you go, well, this is the same issue that we've seen. There's been no adjustment. What are we doing? Now, the beauty and the part that I'll give Desai a lot of credit on is he makes those adjustments. You come out of halftime and you see the adjustments there. I mean, let's not forget or kind of knock the fact that he only allowed 6 points against Dallas in the second half. Now, you can make the argument and say you're 1 yard away or 2 yards away in 2 consecutive possessions, basically, to give up another 14 points or get close to it. So I understand it's very close to being a poor defensive performance. And he gave up a lot of yards. But, I mean, you kind of have to take the good with the bad, and you do see a performance difference in the second half. Again, that's great, but we're about to see it over a consistent gauntlet of games, great quarterback play, good coaching and performance there. it's going to be the true litmus test. I hope and think that Desai can get this thing ready. He seems to be very much a coach's player. I mean, we've heard Fletcher Cox, we've heard Reed Blankenship, Darius Slay, all those guys talking about how Desai will listen to their feedback, saying like, hey, what's working, what's not working in the game, even not only prepping before the game, but in the game. And so I think that benefits, obviously, and you're seeing it on the field, but you want it to be, okay, you got to take control of this somewhat. In this bye week, they're doing all the self-scouting, the evaluations. Will it translate? And you don't get a better test like we've been talking about here, but you don't get a better test than Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm very, very cautiously optimistic that I think that the pass defense numbers will slowly start to get a little bit better, but I don't think that we're going to be near a top.
No.
I don't even know if we'll be a top 15 team, really, but you don't have to be. We've talked about this. Right. You don't have to be to win it. It would just be nice sometimes because all of a sudden we're saying there's the dang middle of the field that continues to be wide open for anyone who wants to throw it there. So I don't know. I like Desai. He's better than Gannon in my opinion. That's pretty easy, but I think that you're hoping to get a little bit more here, especially the teams that we got coming up.
Got Emmanuel Gee here who's saying, let's see, fly Prescott fly on the road to 5-3. I love that. That's pretty good. And then Eagle One saying fly Eagles fly with 10. Eagle One, we appreciate that. Fly Eagles fly, go Birds. Obviously, the Eagles are still 8-1, and I do think we need to set a little bit of expectations for the next 4 weeks after the bye because it's Kansas City, Buffalo, then San Francisco, and then the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas in a game that you and I will be at. We got to talk about that after the show tonight, by the way. But the Eagles should be able to go 2-2. I know we're talking about the gauntlet of games, and ESPN FPI says we're going to lose each of the next 4, which is stupid. But whatever. Kansas City, their offense is worse this year than last year. Defense is better, but the offense is much worse. I mean, you go back and watch the Jets game, you watch the Denver Broncos game, atrocious. This is not the same offense that had that big play explosive potential. They're very Travis Kelsey reliant, and for whatever reason, they're Travis Kelsey reliant when Taylor Swift is there. When she's not there, Kelsey's been really, really bad. So from an offensive perspective, it feels like if the Eagles can score points against the Chiefs, they can win that game. Then you go to Buffalo. Buffalo is struggling. They cannot run the football. Josh Allen is turning the ball over a little bit too much. Their defense is extremely banged up, and they're getting worked. You watch the Buffalo Bill game on Sunday, or the Bengal game on Sunday night. Burrow had his way. They're not the juggernaut that they were even last year. Then you go to the 49ers. The Niners had lost 3 in a row. I mean, they entered the bye week. Now they're going to come out of the bye week. What do you have in Brock Purdy? Is the defense as good now that Chase Young is there? Because Nick Bosa wasn't doing much. And then you finish with Dallas yet again. I mean, everyone's saying that this is the greatest, toughest 4-game stretch. It is, at least on our schedule, but each of those 4 teams have flaws, and Philadelphia should at least go 2-2. I think 3-1 is realistic with maybe a loss to Kansas City just because of the bye week in Big Red, but the Eagles should go 2-2. Am I wrong on that?
I don't think you are, no. And it's a great point, too. And I'm going to talk about it on my show later tonight. Will probably be whenever it drops. But you bring up the great point of, look at the other teams. Now, the whole ranked 7th, I think we had a comment on that actually earlier. I didn't shout that out, but what's up with the 7th ranking?
Yes.
It's Mijos says, why are we 7th on the rankings behind the Cowgirls that we just beat? So, so to your point, I mean,
doesn't make any sense.
The analytics and ESPN and the FPI and everything else, who cares? Who cares? We are the best record, and for some reason we're ranked 7th, but you just kind of went through a lot of those teams, and they're all valid points. It's easy because we live and breathe Eagles, and all of us here are just constantly, consuming all the Birds content and everything else, to say, to nitpick. And sure, we have flaws. There's no question we have flaws, but so does every other team. It's easy to look at another team and go, oh my gosh, they're phenomenal. They're incredible, especially whenever, ESPN's going to try to force feed everyone else and say that team's so much better than you. But it's a great point. Like you mentioned, I don't trust Brock Purdy. You've lost 3 straight games, but he does not look like the same quarterback. He has not looked like a shell of what we thought, oh my gosh, it's this incredible quarterback who can't lose a game. He's going to be incredible. But you talk about that. We know Dallas. Dallas is good. We'll give them that. They're for sure. I mean, they are legit, but it's the regular season. Can you prove it to me in the playoffs? And that's the always never-ending question with Dallas. I don't care how dominant you are in the regular season, you're not going to see that. So you bring up a great point, too, as well, of the Bills. I mean, the turnovers. There's just a lot of other things. So I'm optimistic. I don't think that it's crazy to say that we could go 3-1. And if you want to add on, what's the other game? The Seahawks, I think, is that 5-game stretch. So even if you said 3-2 somehow,
3-2.
I mean, that's a lock. I think we both have talked about it, but Dallas can go 9-0 to wrap
Mm-hmm.
up this season. We go 3-2, and then you have the Giants, Arizona, the Giants. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
should be. I know it's never a given, but that should be
It
3
should be.
wins there. And if
Yeah.
we go 3-2 over the Gauntlet, like that's it. You lock up the NFC East. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in a fantastic spot. We're in the driver's seat. You'll make some adjustments, but I don't think that there's any other team out there that I'm looking at and going, yikes, we're a little bit behind. Like, we've got some issues, but we are definitely behind those teams because I don't think that we are. We're the front runners for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and let's at least acknowledge that Dallas, I'm looking at their schedule right now. It's easy for 3 weeks, New York, Carolina, Washington, and then you throw in Seattle and then us. But where we have the Giants, the Cardinals, the Giants to finish out the season, they're at Buffalo, at Miami, Detroit on Monday night, and at Washington. Like that's tough for a team that might have to, like you said, at least go 8-1 to be catch up with us. Like let's say Philadelphia goes 2-3 over their next 5. Let's say that they beat the Bills, and let's say that they beat the Seattle Seahawks. So let's say you lose to the Niners, you lose to the Chiefs, and you lose to the Dallas Cowboys. You go 2-3 over your next 5. You are still sitting there at 10-4. You're at 10-4, and all you have to do is probably win out your final 3 games against 3 bad teams to lock up the 1 seed, or at worst go 2-1. Right? You could maybe slip up against the Giants if you wanted to really wet the bed, but and that's the NFC East, and that's the 1 seed too. And if you get the 1 seed, people don't realize this enough because just getting to the playoffs for most people, including Philadelphia, for most of my lifetime, you get to the playoffs is like a big accomplishment, right? But if you are the number 1 seed in today's NFL, where you are the only team with a bye, you get home field advantage. It's cold. Teams have to come to you. There's 69,000 screaming Eagle fans. You have to win 2 games. And I keep saying this, your first game is the divisional round against the lowest winning seed. You're playing Tampa or Atlanta or, you're playing Dallas again, right? Part 3. Or you're playing, I'm trying to think, I can't even think of another bad team. Seattle, right? Bad football team that's going to have 6 or 7 losses. And then you go to the NFC title game, you host it again, you're 1 win away, and you'll play the winner of the Lions and the 49ers. They would have just come off of hard-fought, bang-it-out divisional round game. It's easy. Last year was a great example. You played a bad Giants team, and then you played a Niner team that had to beat Dallas the week before, right? I mean, we just cruised to the Super Bowl. You get the 1 seed, you lock this thing up. I mean, come on. We're going to be sitting really, 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 really good. Really, really good. I feel
definitely. I do too. I mean, like Ryan says, coming to Philly is hell for any team.
Yes.
It is. It is the home field advantage. That's the reason that you play for it. And Robert brings up a good point too. He says we still have no conference losses, 6-0 so far.
Yes.
I mean, yes, the only loss, which we shouldn't have. I mean, it was a terrible collapse and not playing well and everything else, obviously, with the Jets. But if for nothing else, I think it's good personally. I don't mind a loss in the middle of the season because you refocus, you reset, you say, hey, look, we can get beat whenever we don't bring our A game, and it doesn't. I don't care who the quarterback is for the other team because it's Zach Wilson, and that shouldn't be very intimidating. But it cost you, so you have some turnovers. But yeah, you refocus. We've seen that from this team, and you see the hunger that they have. So no, I am totally with it that it is very possible, very likely right now, even the injuries that we've survived. I mean, let's think through that. The pass defense and a lot of other areas, but we talked about the pass defense quite a bit. I mean, if for nothing else, you've somehow managed to keep this team together or keep this road together of an 8-1 record with a ton of different guys. Like you've only played 2 games consecutively with the same core of secondary or defensive backs. So that speaks for itself too. Once we get the continuity and the players continuing to be there together, the different adjustments, the communication that they talk about all the time, I think that you just see that kind of take up another notch and the team starts playing a little bit better. So I'm with you on it. We were there obviously for the NFC Championship game. I mean, no team wants to come to Philly. No one wants to do that. So if the road is through Philly, you get the 1 seed. I mean, we're already feeling good about the Super Bowl chances to make it there. But if you get 1 seed, I mean, not to jinx it, not for those that are, superstitious, but I'm just saying very good things are probably in our favor if we get the 1 seed.
Well, and let's say we go 3-2 over the next 5 games, and then you beat the Giants. So you have two games left. you probably can rest people. Like, you probably can get people healthy. And that was a key part of going into the playoffs as well. Lane Johnson got extra time, even though there's still, a tough injury with the abdomen, but it gave him time to rest. And if Philadelphia's recovering from being banged up, Goddard coming back from the injury, which we'll talk about here in a second, Jalen Hurts' knee, however that's going to go. I'm curious what it looks like, on Monday night, because it looked pretty bad, at least for a portion of the game against the Dallas Cowboys. They can get healthier and be a team that is not as banged up like you'd normally see towards the end of the season. The Goddard injury, I saw someone ask earlier, I forget exactly who that was. It was saying, can we still win without Goddard? Raya Jazzy asked that. I think we can. The Goddard's been utilized a lot more recently. Think about the big 4th down and 3 on that opening drive against the Cowboys, the out route to Goddard. But they aren't using him as much as they should. Any other football team with Dallas Goddard, he's probably leading their team in targets, in catches. He probably has 8 or 9 touchdowns. I mean, any other team, if you put him on, I don't know, Jacksonville, he probably leads the team in catches right now, and they have Calvin Ridley. Like, just because you have so many weapons in this Eagle offense, he does not feature as much as he should be. But I think they're going to be okay. And you mentioned that they could use Julio Jones a lot more. Why not? I mean, you don't need to line him up at tight end, but Goddard lines up at wide receiver all the time in those 5-set 4 wide receiver set schemes. And so you put Julio in there. Julio stayed healthy, which we need to give him credit for. That was always the joke when we signed him. Could he stay healthy? He has. Sure. And I think you're going to be okay. And listen, Alberto has a chance here to really kickstart his career. He flashed for, a millisecond in Denver, gets traded, can't get on the football field, plays like 3 snaps against the Dallas Cowboys. Now's your chance, buddy. You have the size, you have the speed, you have the abilities. Like, go out there and
it's your time.
Take this opportunity by the horns. And if he does that, the Eagles are going to be just fine. I'm going to miss Goddard. 4 weeks is not as bad as I thought it could be if it was a total fracture. It's just a minor fracture, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be okay. I really do.
Yep, I do too. But you sure you don't want Rob Gronkowski? The rumors and the reports of
the rumors. Yeah, the rumors. Yeah, all those rumors about Rob Gronkowski. Can we just acknowledge something? If you ever see a title that says Eagles signing XX player ? It means they are not signing that person. That is a dead giveaway that they are not signing that person because it is purely meant to clickbait you into thinking we're going to sign them. There is zero. I did this on my show 2 days ago. There is zero basis for Rob Gronkowski in Philadelphia. There's one tweet that has Brent Selleck's body with Gronk's head on it in an 87 Eagle jersey, and it was somebody saying, should the Eagles sign Gronk? And it was a nobody with some Eagle blog, Twitter, whatever. It's the dumbest thing ever. If you ever see that, and there's a question mark,
run with it.
They did not sign him, nor will they even come close to. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Why would Gronk do it? Gronk is so retired, man. He's so retired. The ability to, taking hits again. You think Gronk could take a hit and get up the next day and not feel like an absolute piece of, garbage? It would be rough. Not happening.
I don't know. I highly doubt he's in shape enough to do that. But yes, it was funny because I understand you have a big name and, oh my gosh, we could get this player, I don't know that it's impossible if Gronk really, really wanted to, but also you look at it and he's been out for a while, and how long would it even take? Plus, do the Eagles really consider that as like a massive benefit in there? There's just so many questions with that. So I'm out on that. I really do want to see, like you mentioned earlier, Alberto. I'd like to see it, certainly from the receiving side. Now, again, the question becomes like, does it make you a little bit more predictable? Are you telegraphing it in terms of, because we know Alberto struggles with blocking based on what we've seen previously. Now, maybe he's worked with Stout and, get some blocking techniques or something. He's a little bit better. I don't know, but he's struggled in that area. So if you see him on the field, or if you see Julio on the field, is that more of a, okay, they're probably passing, there's like a lot of times we do the RPO, but whenever you need to get those yards, is it a little bit of a tell? I don't know. And especially if you bring in Jack Stoll, then it's like, oh, okay, they're not passing to Jack, so they're going to be running the football. So I don't know. That's a question that we'll have to see. I do think that they're going to be okay. Sirianni's mentioned it's not even the tight ends that it could be up to. So it could be a Julio Jones, could be a Alameda Zaccheaus. We see a little bit more of him possibly in the slot. So I think they'll be all right. But I guess question 2 with that, because we're talking about the running game, continues to be the question. There is a concern. I think there's a concern. Lots of people think that there's a concern. Sirianni does not believe that there's a concern in the running game. He is okay and happy with where it is at. Maybe not happy, but he's definitely okay is what he said, where the running game's at. Do you buy that? Is it could this come back to hurt us? Is there a missing link in this thing? Is it Cam Jurgens? Just where do you fall with this?
I'm trying to find the stat on the total rushing yards the past couple of weeks, but it's not been good. I mean, it's been almost non-existent. I mean, DeAndre Swift was running through holes the size of small cars the first couple weeks of the season. He's no longer running through those. Like, the holes aren't there. And this whole idea that it's Cam Jurgens doesn't make perfect sense, right? Like, okay, if it's just Cam Jurgens, then does that mean they couldn't run the ball to the left side even with Jurgens in there, right? Because you have Dickerson, who's supposed to be a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, really good run blocker at left guard. Kelsey still pulls. Mailata's great against the run. Like, just having one guy on the right side shouldn't make all the difference. Now, I'm not Jeff Stoutland. I bet Jeff Stoutland, if he was watching this, he could say, Thomas, here's why. The X, O, Z, Y, this reason, that reason, blocking techniques, okay. I just don't buy it. I just think they're just not that good. And I can't decide if I think that DeAndre Swift is maybe just not like that great. Like he's good, but he's not that great. Like we all really the first couple of weeks were like, holy cow, we have the rushing champ. Like, I mean, genuinely, he was like 50 yards behind McCaffrey for being the top rusher in the NFL. I was like, we have the rushing champ right now, and that's really cooled off. Or if they're just not a good run blocking team, and maybe they're not. Maybe, I mean, Kelsey's up there in age. I know that he gets clips every now and then on Twitter where he's pulling and looking great, but maybe he's not great every single snap. I don't know. And it's probably because I'm not a football coach who understands blocking schemes. I know we talk about them not running enough RPOs. Maybe that's true. Maybe Jalen's knee has a factor in there. I don't know why, but it definitely is not as good as it was last year. And something is very different from where it was the first 3 weeks of this season to where it is right now. Because I don't know if they've even rushed for 100 yards recently. Did they rush for 100 yards against the Cowboys? I don't know if they did.
That's a good question. I know they had 109. Was
see.
it one of the two games?
Okay, leading rushers. Week 2, Swift, $175. Week 3, Swift, $130. Since then, this is weeks 4 through 9. Swift was your leading rusher with 56. Hurts with 72. Hurts with 47 against the Jets. Swift 62. Swift 57. Swift 43 versus the Dallas Cowboys. And as a team, Philadelphia had 109 rushing yards. Only, 65 of those were from running backs? Like, sure, they broke 100, but it's a big difference. It's definitely a big difference. It definitely is a problem.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely a problem. There's a lot of things that I think go into it, but it's curious whenever you have Sirianni who's admitting or saying that it's not really an issue. And it's, we have some plays, and I'll give him the extension of the running game sometimes because, there's the play where technically it's a pass and they handed it off to DeAndre Swift, who went around the kind of a sweep that he got a block from Kenny Gainwell that was like 20 yards.
That was nice.
That's basically a run. So, okay, cool, whatever, you could say. But there's very few and far between of those. And my kind of argument or question that I had on my previous show was, okay, that's fine. But like, what happens when late game situation, we need to run for a first down? There's no fooling a team and saying like, oh, hey, are they going to pass the ball? Now maybe we have to now because we just can't seem to get the first down. But what happened to the late game situation we saw last season when it was, oh, guess what? We're going to run the football, but you can't stop us. We will continue to pick up 4 yards, 5 yards a carry and bleed the clock, and the game's over. You're not going to get the football back. We haven't seen that. And Jalen's alluded to it. He said, we got to be better. We got to close out games. We've been kind of a continual, we've made mistakes in that area. We've kind of not been able to finish out the games because of it. It'll cost you. Like, it hasn't so far, thankfully, but it's going to cost you against say, for example, Patrick Mahomes. You don't give him the ball back. If you are up by one possession or less, if you're up by a couple points, and there's 2 minutes on the clock, they've got like 2 timeouts, you get the first down and you end the game. You do not let Patrick Mahomes get back on the field because we've seen it too many times what he can do. So I think it's an issue. Jason Kelsey has admitted saying it is an issue. They're very close, but they're not there yet. So, I mean, if he's saying it, I think that kind of seems to suggest a reason that there is an idea. I don't know. It's a lot of things. I do feel like Cam Jurgens is going to be a bump, but personally, I mean, it kind of feels like Jurgens, when he went out, was about the same time that Hurts started to significantly show kind of a slower or less than ideal running ability, or maybe he did pick up that injury about that time as well. But it's almost like the defense is keyed off it as well, because they're just saying, well, Jalen's not going to run. So if they do the RPO, like, cool, let Jalen have the corner if he wants to, because he's not going to fight through anybody. We've seen him slide down. He'll take 2 yards and then, play the next down. I don't know if that's the other fact of it too, but you have defenses that are now keying in on the running back. So it's going to cost you. Let's just say that if we can't get a little bit, but it doesn't have to be number one. But if you can't be somewhat dominant in that game and closing them out, it's going to cost you them.
I mean, it should have cost them against the Dallas Cowboys. Genuinely, like they tried to run it 3 times to basically get a first down and close the clock out, and they had two yards and then a butt fumble. Like it was.
Oh my gosh!
And last year, like you said, they would have gotten a first down and they would have taken knees, and we would never have had the drama of the last Cowboy drive. It's definitely different.
Hey, heck yeah! I was gonna say, can we get a like for anybody who's not hit the like button? If you survived that game, the heart attack finish, hit the like button real quick. That was craziness. I can't even. We were both saying. Rough. We were going to lose. Like we were talking about afterwards going, I thought we were going to lose this thing. And, you see the reactions too, but it was fun after the fact, but it was also still, it felt like it was going to die because the blood pressure and the anxiety and everything else with it.
Ryan said with the 10, Sirianni's delusional, thinks the run game was okay. We've abandoned the run completely. And when we do, we're still featuring gain none. Thanks. I hate it. Yeah, I don't know if Penny's the answer. I didn't see much from his 2 carries against the Cowboys, but yeah, Gainwell's not done much. Bald Eagle says we've been playing from behind a decent amount. I guess that's true, but it's not like we've been down big. It's not like we've been down big enough to kind of forget about the running game, like people are saying. Like we have pretty much abandoned it a lot of times. I know the pass game's working, so maybe you don't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I don't know. It's a little different. Smokey Bear says there are a lot of ignorant statements being made by Thomas. Oh, which ones? Which ones are these ignorant statements that you speak of? Please let me know. I don't know.
Is there no follow-up to that? It's just a blanket statement? Oh, my God.
Every statement I make, ignorant. You never know. It happens. Thom says, hey, guys from Brazil, should we worry about possible retirement of best center Jason Kelsey? For me, he suffers more when we have 4th and 1 tush push. He is going to retire after the season. There isn't a worry. He is, for sure. They'll move Jurgens over. Steen will be your right guard, and they'll probably draft somebody to be a backup, either tackle or right guard. That seems all but assured, right? That seems all but a guarantee. Yeah, Kelsey is going to retire, and the tush push is not going to go away. It's not going to be dead. Kelsey is a big reason why they were able to install it, but it takes 5 players, and Jurgens is small enough, like Kelsey, to kind of be that wedge to get under first and be just fine. The tush push is not going away at all.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. And as we know, Cam Jurgens is incredibly athletic. So to your point, I mean, he's maybe slightly bigger than Kelsey, but it's not drastic. You're going like, oh my gosh, this is too big of a center now, which is kind of a weird thing to say in terms of usually the offensive lineman. But yeah, for the play there, I think it'll be all right. The beauty is Kelsey's going to share all the secrets with Jurgens, and he has probably already. But if he hasn't anything else, but before he goes out, but I mean, there's no way he's coming back. As much as maybe we'd love to see it, this is
0%
is his last ride.
0. He's
giving it one last shot. Try to get the trophy, try to get the Super Bowl. But I just would be shocked. There's no way he comes back.
Yep. I totally agree. Thoughts on drafting Jeremiah Trotter as an upgraded Dean? If you have not joined us from the beginning, we talked about Dean earlier. And listen, just to rehash quickly, Dean not playing that great recently, and I know he's dealing with an injury from the other foot. It's a different foot in terms of the injury, so that's important to note. He's going to go on IR most likely, be out for 4 weeks, and see what happens whenever he comes back. Losing him stinks. It's not a big loss. Cunningham statistically has been better, and honestly, I really like Morrow's tackling inside the A and B gaps. He's been really, really good there. And we all want Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I don't know where Kuiper is ranking him on the draft boards. I don't know if he's a late first rounder. Linebackers don't tend to go that early. Can you think of a linebacker, a middle linebacker that went early recently? Like Micah Parsons is the most recent one, and he didn't even play middle linebacker anymore, and yet people forget that's what he was drafted to do. Yeah, he's literally going to be a linebacker. I can't think of the next recent linebacker taken in the first round. Did they get somebody in the first round?
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Let's see here. It is Jack Campbell. That's who it was. Because I was thinking, like, why in the world did they take the linebacker?
Yeah.
That was the one there.
Well, I mean, look, I have it right here in terms of linebackers. There was 3 in the first round: Will Anderson, Jack Campbell, and Nolan Smith. 2 were not true linebackers; they're pass rushers. So Campbell was this past year. 2022, you had 2. You had Quay Walker and Devin Lloyd. Lloyd's been okay. He's not been incredible. He's not like a Pro Bowl linebacker. He's been fine. I mean, I think a lot of us wanted Devin Lloyd. Zaven Collins, Jamin Davis, Jason Owe, Joe Tryon, Micah Parsons in 2021. Like, Yeah, I don't even know who half those guys are. Are they playing in the NFL right now? I know Away, I think, is playing for the Baltimore Ravens, but nothing crazy there. And then 2022, Isaiah Simmons, Kenneth Murray, Jordan Brooks, Patrick Queen. Simmons is good. Brooks is good. Sorry, this is 2020. But Kenneth Murray's not that great with the Chargers. I don't think he's anything special. Like, linebackers don't go that high for a reason. I think Trotter's either going to be a late first rounder, which would fit well for Philadelphia, hoping with the Super Bowl, or an early second rounder, which would also fit well. So, yeah, sure. Why not? Go ahead and get him.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think that the last that I saw, I believe that Trotter was like late first round or maybe early second. So, I mean, is Howie going to do that? No. Like he never spends that much on a linebacker. He'll go with an offensive lineman. He'll go with a defensive lineman again. If you have some sort of steal with like a skill player, maybe, he'd make a splash with that. But, from what this team needs, I would be shocked. If I personally had to pick it, I'm saying you're going to go with one of the trenches, whether it's O-line or D-line. And then if you're going to make a selection outside of that, like probably maybe corner, if you have a corner fall to you based on what you're looking at for this team, you might see something like that. But still, it's like, how much is Howie going to go for those situations? Because we know what he loves to go at, and it's the consistent of O-line, D-line. Like, that's what we're going to stick with because that's what we know. That's what works. As much as I would love to see a Trotter Jr. in the jersey like that, it feels like that's very, very unrealistic. I don't know.
I agree. Ryan Grebe, 10. Here's to you being ignorant, Lamau. Yep, that's me. Yep. Just being ignorant over here. It happens. Hey, what'd you think of Kelsey, Sexiest Man Alive nominee? I really thought it was a joke. Like, I really did, because you go through the list, and it's Timothée Chalamet and Usher and Lenny Kravitz, who looks really good for being, like, I didn't know Lenny Kravitz.
Is he 60? Is he 60 now, or how old is he?
I just remember him from being the guy in the Hunger Games. That's all I remember him from.
It's a long time.
What was it? Usher.
59. Wow.
Jeez. Lenny Kravitz. Who was it? Pedro Pascal, who's not young much anymore. I mean, geez, he's like babysitting Baby Yoda or the girl from The Last of Us. And then Jason Kelsey. Like, it was like, what? Very clearly, People Magazine trying to get football fans to read this, right? Like I love Jason Kelsey. He's not one of the 6 sexiest men alive. For coming from a straight male here, he just is not. Okay, he just. Am I wrong on this? I don't think he is.
The clarification, yes.
Just want to make it clear.
Engaged for people that are wondering.
Yes, I do.
You're a woman. No, I mean, It was funny just hearing Kelsey's response too, because he gets it. He knows it's a joke. Like, He was like, I'm not even, what did he say? Like, I'm not even the sexiest person in my family or something like that. So, like, he knows
Travis is way better looking.
He's, so I don't know. They're trying to go with, you talk about some of the clickbait, I guess, of People Magazine. They're like, hey, you know what? If we get Jason Kelsey, get some football fans, they're going to want to be able to read that or whatever. But I don't know. It's one of those, it's funny. You could have some arguments. So, hey, you know what? The dad bod, sexy Batman, like, but you go with a little different approach. It's very different because, we mentioned like all the other groups or all the other guys that were mentioned in that. And then you look at Jason Kelsey, it's kind of like, well, which one doesn't belong? It kind of felt that way. But I love Kelsey's response because he gets it and he just laughed at it basically because he goes, what was his, like, my head's already big enough as it is. I don't need, Kylie doesn't need my head to be bigger from this. So it's like, that's pretty funny. Kelsey's awesome.
What does it do for you as like a married person, right? Like if you're single and you can kind of, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm one of the top 6 sexiest men alive. I'm like, your head's so bloviated that you tell your dates that, and they're like, oh wow, I'm going out with a guy who's People Magazine. You're Jason Kelsey. You think Kylie cares about this? She's probably like, oh great, right? She's probably like, this is gonna fill your head even more. This is ridiculous. Like, what does it do for you if you are, married? It does nothing for you besides being able to antagonize your wife a little bit there. It's just such a funny little award. Oh, you saw Travis Kelsey is a finalist for most attractive or hottest athlete, I think it is. So he's athlete, but nope. I mean, man is a whole different category than athlete, right? So one up there.
Yeah, well, that's interesting there. I did not know. I was not aware of that. But for those that have watched the Kelsey doc, I mean, yes, your thought of how is his wife going to, view that? She's just going to give him crap for it, probably. Like, there's not going to be any, oh my gosh, wow, congratulations. You're one of the 6 finalists for that award. So I don't know. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But you got to talk about something during this bye week. And, that's one of those things. And WIP brought it up immediately, of course, whenever they found it. So good for them. But hey, looky here. Sauce says, been supporting Mott since Chat Sports with the eye emoji. So there you go. It's been quite a while now.
Yeah, that's a long time. Speaking of, what's the word? Clickbait? I don't know. It just came to mind. Bounced in my head. I don't know. I appreciate that though. It's just two words just shot into my head. They just shot into my head for some reason. I don't know. Why. Bloviated, great word. Wrong uses though. What do you mean? No, it wasn't. That was the right uses of bloviate, right? His head's bloviated. Bloviate your head? Wouldn't that be like to fill your head with air? Am I wrong on that? I thought I was using a big word. I thought I got it right. Bloviate. Let's see. Let's see. Talk at length, especially. Oh, it's talk at length. Yeah, I guess that would make sense, huh? I thought it was just like to inflate. See, it says talk in length, especially in an inflated or empty way. Okay, yeah, you're right. I was wrong on that.
That's good. Appreciate the chat, because the chat can always keep us honest.
Yeah, I'm saying a lot of ignorant things tonight. Someone else called that earlier. They nailed it. I got it right there. Flipping the Bird 85 says, so the Eagles signed Gronk. Oh, gosh. I'm curious what your video is going to be like, Mott. LOL. Very entertaining to say the least. We're playing each other in fantasy this week. Good luck. Okay, I stink in fantasy, by the way. You're going to beat me. I don't even want to talk about that. Listen, though. Like if the Eagles were to sign Gronk, you know what my title would say? Breaking. Eagles sign Rob Gronkowski. No question mark at the end. That's the question mark is the ticker. I keep telling you this. If you see a headline that says, Eagles signing Jason Pierre-Paul, question mark, they're not signing Jason Pierre-Paul. There's no word saying that they're going to sign Jason Pierre-Paul. Just, if they're signing him, then the headline will say, Eagles signing Jason Pierre-Paul. And then you'll be like, oh my gosh, the Eagles have signed Jason Pierre-Paul. It's official. Come on. Right. Ridiculous.
Yep. We can understand if it's, hey, teams considering a guy or whatever.
Yes.
But whenever it's someone is being signed, as soon as you see it, it's an obvious giveaway. For sure that it's going to happen or not going to happen, where you have the question mark versus the exclamation. So the punctuation is important.
Very important when it comes to YouTube headlines.
Anthony Russell says, as a married man, if I was voted sexiest man, I would walk around the house like a king and kiss my wife. I would be too cocky every day.
Yeah. It would definitely make me cocky. It wouldn't bloviate me, though, because that's the wrong word.
You'd have to rub it in, right? I mean,
yeah, but even my fiance would be like, get over yourself. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is the dumbest thing ever. So, yeah. Not buying it. Let's see. Breaking. Eagles sign Gronk and lose half their fan base. I don't think anyone would be upset with a Gronk signing. It would be a fun story, and I bet our shows would get a lot of views, so I'd be happy with it. But the idea that they were going to, or have even called it,
and we would break the news first, by the way,
we would break news first. Yes, we do have that ability over everybody else. We are first to every single bit of news in terms of big stuff. So another reason to be subscribed, which we appreciate you, because you've made us the most subscribed channels this past month and recently. So fun stuff there as well. We appreciate that.
Appreciate all you guys.
George says Byard more like a Cam Chancellor type safety, not a Malcolm Jenkins or C.J. Gunnar-Johnson. Yeah. But he's not as physical as Cam Chancellor, right? You think Cam Chancellor, you think he's going to rip your head off. I haven't seen that from Byard yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I have not seen that. I will say, Kelsey is Travis Kelsey. That is, did not like the signing. He liked it, but he didn't like it.
I remember that. I remember
Kevin Byard is a pain to go up against. So, I mean, we've talked about earlier, Kevin Byard not really playing up to the standard. He's had some misses, given up some big gains. Hold out on it though, because I think that he will turn a corner. I'm hoping for that, but I do believe it as well. And if Travis Kelsey, best tight end in football, is saying that, then I'm going to believe it. I'm not just going to say, well, he's blowing smoke on the podcast for New Heights, because if he didn't really believe that, he could have been like, oh, cool, he's pretty good competitor or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, that dude, he makes life terrible on the football field. So hopefully we see that. It's going to be the next matchup too. So can Kevin Byard limit Kelsey? Maybe, hopefully, that would be nice.
Bald Eagle says, hey, Tom, who said Eagles signing Rob Gronkowski? There were two of them. You just look up Eagles and Rob Gronkowski on YouTube, and both the culprits will pop right up. They'll pop right up. You can figure it out for yourself. Rock the Artist says, I would give Julio more snaps. I think I would too, but Julio's done what I kind of hoped he would do. I think we've seen what we kind of were hoping. He hasn't gotten injured. He's gotten a red zone target and caught it for a touchdown. He's done what I thought he would. And sure, you can get more snaps, but it's hard to think that you're going to give Julio more snaps and throw him the ball more when you could just throw A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith the ball. And you're just like, it's like, if the Eagles didn't have A.J. Brown, and it was 2021, and Devontae Smith was their number one weapon, right? Remember these days, it was Jalen Hurts' first time being a starter for the full year, and Smitty had a good year, but he clearly wasn't ready to be a 1. He was like very clearly a 1B. Then if you had Julio Jones, Julio would be getting a lot of targets in this offense. But when you have A.J. Brown on the season tear that he's on right now, like, why would we ever not throw it his way, right? And even Sirianni mentioned it in the postgame on that 3rd down and 3 when they threw that go route to him, and it didn't work, and we were all like, why'd you do that? And Sirianni's like, man, I mean, listen, yeah, I guess I agree, but, it's A.J. Brown, and if he would have caught it, we all thought he was a genius, so, it's tough.
True. It didn't feel like the right play call, but it's much easier, as we know, and we do this quite often, but you can't help it. But it's much easier to play armchair quarterback and Monday morning quarterback than it is in the game. So you understand the heat of the moment, but at the same time, I mean, they're making all that money for a reason. And whenever we are judgmental on it, it's very much of, did it work or did it not work? And in that instance there, it just felt like before they even ran it, we're going, are they really about to pass this thing? So yes, it's easier to say it after the fact because hindsight's 2020. Sure. But it's like a reverse. It's like you would have preferred to see a run there or a short pass because we know that the brotherly shove is going to work. So you pick up 2 yards. Okay, who cares? You don't get it, but you just go for it. And you could easily pick up the 4th and 1. But then at the very end of the game, the last few possessions or the last possession, we're like, okay, maybe let's just pass the ball now because we're not picking up anything with the running game. And then, I don't know what that was with DeAndre Swift running into A.J. Brown and the fumble that could have cost everything. Thankfully, Tyler Steen, I mean, the biggest play he made all game was recovering that fumble. For his start, very up and down, had some pretty good moments, had some very bad moments. Lane Johnson gave him some kudos, but nothing better than actually recovering the fumble from Steen on that side. I don't know how that happens, honestly. I mean, we're in week 9, and you have your wide receiver take out DeAndre Swift. I mean, you could see he literally just got leveled. I mean, it was a complete just going limp and dropping the football. So AJ's a big dude, but I mean, the fact that you're sitting there and we thought that the Cowboys recovered initially too. Can you imagine if they had recovered that? I mean, it was already a chance of us to lose, and we're kind of thinking we might, but that's plenty of time at that point. If they recover that fumble, oh man, there's just lots of things that happened in that game, as we all know, that were very fortunate. We played a good game. We won ultimately, and Cowboys are going to complain about the refs and all that. That's ridiculous. You're always going to get that though. You're going to get the complaining about the refs. Of course. But the best part to me is just, you kind of rub it into Dallas. You laugh at him, you yell at him, whatever it is that Kelsey was doing. He said he was laughing. It looked like a scream in the guy's face is what it looked like. But oh my gosh, at least you got the win.
At least you did. Bald Eagle just said, just typed it in. Could you tell me the channel? It's pretty tough to find, I guess. Bald Eagle, just search Gronk Eagles. I'm looking at it right now. You got 3 of them. 3 of them for Gronk Eagles. So just search it, and you'll see where the Gronk stuff comes from. Just saying that. How about this? Reese Johnson. Josh, and whatever your name is, that's me. I do have to say, for being Eagles fans, y'all lose faith very fast and never have anything positive to say during games unless we're leading by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Yikes! I'm glad he didn't know my name. I mean, geez, he thinks I'm terrible.
Yeah. Well, you're the one that has.
You two should be ashamed of yourself.
So,
yeah.
Well, I guess I appreciate the honesty.
Maybe
we'll try to be more optimistic. I feel like we're pretty optimistic, but we're also realistic in the fact of whenever we have mistakes, I don't want to just be like a fanboy or Sirianni just kind of constantly cheering. I mean, I can appreciate that, but sometimes trying to just be like, hey, look, if someone's not doing great, then we're gonna call it like we see it. Now we're both wrong, and we both would admit there's times that we're wrong. We say something and it's like, oh, hey, they proved us wrong. That's great. But that's the whole idea of the live stream, isn't it? Like just to kind of have the emotion, wear the emotions on the sleeve, and just see how it turns out. I don't know.
George says he sees Gronk highlights when the Eagles versus Eagles when I look it up too. Okay, I don't know. I just searched Gronk Eagles and it pops right up. But what do I know? It happens. Baldy said I'm messing with you. Okay, well at least you found it. Let's see. Why did Kelsey get drug tested? Because the NFL randomly drug test people randomly. I don't know. I don't think the NFL actually is like, you played well. That means you're taking drugs, and then they drug test you. I do think it's probably pretty random, and they drug test so many players that eventually it falls on A.J. Brown's big game or Kelsey winning. Like, I mean, I'd be surprised if they were actually being like, ooh, well, it looked like Jason Kelsey played well today. Drug test him, because like what? Like you probably drug tested him a couple weeks ago. Like you just started taking something. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
No.
Bald Eagle said, just poking at you. Keep it the good work. There you go, Bald. I appreciate it. I caught it. I caught it a little late.
Yeah, the fact that it was on his birthday though, that was kind of unfortunate.
That's the funny part. Yeah,
Bald days, you're gonna do it on his birthday.
By the way, getting drug tested in the NFL, you literally just go pee in a cup. Like, it's not, you don't do anything else crazy. You just pee in a cup and give it to them. And 9 times out of 10, you're not doing any drugs that are illegal in terms of, substances that they can't have. And it's not like illegal drugs. It's like banned substances. It's performance enhancer, stuff like that. And so not a worry at all. All right, we're about to wrap up here. Let's go ahead and get a couple more comments, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Eric Petro says, these comments remind me of the Eagles subreddit. Place is crazy toxic on live feeds these days. I've never been on the Eagles subreddit. Is it that bad? I guess it's might be. Bad.
Yeah.
Have you been on it?
mean, yeah. You've been on Reddit for other stuff, right? I mean,
yeah, but I've never been to the Eagles subreddit.
Yeah, it's. To me, honestly, it's similar to Twitter. I mean, we see kind of the similar types of comments. You got the toxic hate, and you've got some that's over the top, and But yes, there's a decent amount. I think Spadero caught a little bit whenever he had done an interview with someone. I can't remember when he did an interview, but people are like, "Oh, he's just cheering him on. Like, I can't trust him." And then like tons of people got it upvoted, but then there were like lots of other people that came to Spadero's rescue. So it's just the whole back and forth. You see it everywhere. I know. I'm like, man, what in the world?
The Eagles subreddit. I bet this is fun. How many people are in this thing? They're probably a lot, right? It's got to be a big. Thing overall.
I can't remember the number, but there's a ton of people there.
Okay, very fun. Okay, what did Ryan say here? That's almost as good as the dude that said on Josh's channel, I have to pay to win stuff. My native thinks that all contests have an entry. That's funny.
I did see that. There's not every single one is though. That's the hilarious thing. And then also someone did comment because it was one of the posts that I did about hey, we're giving away we did the AJ Brown raffle for the helmet last week, and someone was like, who actually believes that someone wins anything? Can someone confirm? I'm like, okay, well, I don't need to respond to that because everyone else is like, stuff. Yes, anyone who's won the jerseys, the helmets, the hoodies, everything else. Come on. I was like, well, yeah, I guess you just don't want to win anything. So yeah, whatever.
That's fine. Joseph, try and pronounce this last name. Kovalchuk.
I think it's Kovalchuk.
Kovalchuk. That's fun to say.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Kovalchuk. There you go. What do you think of Ricks? I think he's pretty good. I mean, we mentioned this earlier briefly, but I think that he is an undrafted free agent, and so he struggles at times. But as undrafted free agents go, he's better than, what's his name? Keely Ringo, playing a lot more. Better
than most.
Yeah, I have no problem with him at all. What do you think, Josh?
No, I have no problem. He's going to have ups and downs. We talked about it kind of closer to the open here, but like, he's had some great moments. He limited Tyreek Hill in 3 opportunities. It wasn't a lot, but in the Dolphins game, he limited. He played fairly well the week before. He's had some slip ups. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb. It's one of those. I think everyone has a welcome to the NFL moment, so to speak.
Yes, he does.
But if Eli Ricks' welcome to the NFL moment was against CeeDee Lamb, at least it wasn't in Emmanuel Forbes against A.J. Brown, because you can't have a worse welcome to the NFL moment than what A.J. Brown did to Emmanuel Forbes. And then, well, I guess you could say that, but then DJ Moore the following week. But, the two combined weeks there, that's not what you want to see. I'm a believer in Eli Ricks. You talked about it earlier, too. The strides that he's made, especially for being a UDFA, there's tons of potential. Like, this dude, no one's expecting him to come in here and, hey, he's a lockdown, shutdown corner like Sauce Gardner, from day one. Like, that's not the expectation. But he's been able to make an impact. He's being thrown at different spots, too. I mean, you got to give him some credit because Desai's not only asked him to play a little bit, especially in training camp in the preseason, it was like, hey, you're just on the outside. Like, there's nothing in the slot. And then as time's gone on, he's like, well, let's get you out there at the slot because we need it for the injuries, but also just to get you a little bit more exposure on that side. So I'm a believer in him. I think he's going to be fine. Will he have some ups and downs? Yeah. But again, like, tell me who in our secondary is like consistent every week. I mean, even I'd say Reed Blankenship is probably the most consistent, but even he's had a couple slip ups in games. So I'm fine. Ricks is going to be all right.
I've had multiple questions about O.J. Howard potentially signing him. I don't hate the idea of O.J. Howard. The problem is that the Raiders signed O.J. Howard this offseason and then cut him before the season started, and no one else has signed him. And I always say this, right? If you are a free agent by this point in the season, there's something that other teams don't like, especially tight ends. Like, there are a lot of free agent cornerbacks and a lot of free agent running backs. But free agent tight ends, if you're needed, people are going to sign you. There's a reason that he's not available. But as Fit and Lit Didi said, 6'6", 250. I mean, he has the size. But I feel like if you're worried about size, then Albert O's the right position, right? Like he's the guy that you would want. And they clearly wanted him more than just getting for free, not needing draft picks, and O.J. Howard.
Yeah, I think if Howie made the trade, which he did, but the trade that he made,
right,
there's almost no way in my mind that he's going to just go ahead and say, yeah, you know what, Goddard's injured, shoot, I wasn't planning on that. I traded for Albert O to continue riding the bench and not getting any games. Like, I think you're going to see more. Now, again, it's communication from both coaching staff and from Howie on these acquisitions, but Howie didn't just pull the trigger because he liked the guy. I mean, he had serious conversations, with the coaching staff and Sirianni and Brian Johnson. So I think you're going to have to see probably at least one or maybe even two games before you even consider or see Howie consider like, oh, let's go and make an acquisition or sign a bigger name of a sort. You might see someone get added to practice squad just for, some limited depth for a week in case something happens. But no, you got to see what you have. Like, you need to have, what was the snap total for Alberto? It was like, was it 2 snaps? He only got in for like a couple plays against the Cowboys.
Maybe 3. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got to see more than that, especially with Goddard out. You don't roll with anybody else, I think, until you figure out, hey, can this guy make an impact this year? If so, great. If not, then all right, yeah, maybe you call and figure out what free agents are available.
Yep, I totally agree. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here, a little over an hour. Make sure you guys stay tuned for all the shows happening the rest of the week. It's the bye week. There's still a lot of things going on. And then Josh will be back next Wednesday night. And then obviously for Monday Night Football, that Chiefs game is going to be a bunch of fun at Kansas City. Big Red is rested as well. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the defense does, because I think the offense can play, but can the defense hold up? That's going to be a very interesting question. So we will see. For Josh Davis, though, I'm signing off as we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Go Birds. See ya.
Go Birds.